All right, folks, this is actually a big topic right now, and it's actually going to be pushing everywhere. Loads of people are talking about it. It's the fact that Sony could potentially, with a hostile takeover sort of thing, with Bungie. It looks like Bungie is in pretty bad, constraints. The 45% missed targets is bad, and if they miss their next target, it looks like Sony could basically move in and just take over the whole company, because that is what they signed. As you can see here, lead Bungie staff fear total Sony takeover, layoffs after layoffs delays. Now we've also got this from Destin, who is covering this. Bungie seems to be on the precipice of a hostile takeover by Sony. Now he has crossed out this hostile issue here, but we are going to actually get to that in a bit. He says if they fail to meet targets, Sony will take over the board and run the company instead of Bungie. That's ridiculous. I mean, I don't think this is, I can't believe that, Bungie made this same mistake again that they did with Activision. This is a must read for Destiny fans. Fixed it. Now, as you can see down here, the argument about the one word hostile is missing the point, I think. This is a brutal, no matter how you cut it. And Cornell seems to define it as hostile, but I'm not a lawyer. This is just my interpretation, and Hoglaw seems to think I am wrong. So I can say I don't think it's the L at all. The reality is, right? This is the bottom line. If Bungie do not want to be bought out, and Sony decide to move in, that's a hostile takeover. End of story. There is no middle ground here. When one party doesn't want it, it's a hostile takeover. That is, there's no two ways of looking at this. But before we get into the actual article, do consider leaving a like and subscribe. We are going for that 350 likes for this video with another 10 follower challenge. So let's see if we can hit that 10 subs and 350 likes. Don't forget, if you want to support the challenge further, you can do that through my Patreon, through my YouTube membership, and of course, through my Super Thanks. But of course, supporting the channel is free. You can just drop a like and a subscribe and you're there. Okay, now that that's out of the way, here we go with IGN. So we're going to go into this article and just go through it because this is kind of big, right? So it says, Bungie devs say atmosphere is soul-crushing amid layoffs, cuts, and fear of total Sony takeover. I mean, this will essentially just remove the life and blood of what made Bungie. I mean, it's pretty much gone anyway. But the Destiny and Marathon 2 developer, I'm guessing right now, what Sony are planning to do here is move in and just make everything Bungie exclusive to PlayStation. It wouldn't surprise me. But Marathon seems to be the next one on their target. It says, 1 month after a major round of layoffs impacted roughly 100 Bungie employees of 1,200, those remaining at the Destiny developer say the cuts, as well as other cost-cutting measures, came alongside an apparent scramble by studio leadership to avoid a total Sony takeover. As it currently stands, Bungie is, on paper, a fully independent subsidiary of Sony, but its board of directors has been divided since the takeover in July of 2022. Among its current members are PlayStation Studios head Herman Holst, Sony senior VP Eric Lempel, Bungie co-founder Jason Jones, Bungie CTO Lewis Villages, and Bungie CEO Pete Parsons. The board as a whole is split between Sony and Bungie representatives, with Parsons serving as a tiebreaker vote, but speaking to IGN under condition of anonymity. Multiple current and former Bungie employees described a department meeting that took place shortly after the layoffs, in which leaders hinted that this shared power may not last forever. Sony did not respond to IGN's request for comment on this piece. Bungie declined to comment. Now, do keep in mind that it is Bungie who actually signed this document to provide, to give away that much board power. So their independence was never independent. Like I said, all it takes is a couple of mistakes and Sony will do what they want. So all these companies that was, all these people that were saying Bungie is independent, they can do whatever they want, Sony can't interfere. Yeah, they can. And I said this all along. Now you all can turn around and say that I was right, because you all mocked me, laughed at me, and I was right. I was right all along. You don't invest $3.6 billion on a company and then give away all all control. That's stupid. No person in their right mind would do that. But you know what? Bungie have been here before. They were here with Activision when they made the same deal with Activision in terms of if they don't deliver on time with the updates, Activision could basically move in and claim the Destiny IP. That is what Bungie signed years ago. And you know what? When they failed to deliver, Activision turned around and said, you know what? We're going to give you 6 months more. Make sure it's done during that time. If it's not, we're going to move in and it's RIP. You know, the fact that Activision gave them that and they saved the Destiny IP is crazy. They're not getting that here though. No. Sony have been eyeing this for a while, and considering the first opportune moment they get, they pounce on it. Should tell you everything. Sony is not any PlayStation player's friend. All they care about is money. I mean, they're a business. Who wouldn't, right? Declaration of Dependence. While the exact details of Sony's deal to acquire Bungie remain unknown to the public or employees, sources say they were told by leaders that the current split board structure is contingent on Bungie meeting certain financial goals. If Bungie falls short of certain financial thresholds by too great an amount, Sony is allowed to dissolve the existing board and take full control of the company. That is crazy. And with Destiny 2 expansion, the final shape delayed until the next fiscal year, and Bungie still investing heavily on Marathon, many employees understand that Bungie is struggling to meet the necessary targets to keep its last vestige of freedom. Such a takeover wouldn't necessarily be shocking given its 2022 acquisition, but it would nevertheless be a stunning development for a company that has historically prided itself on its independence. Like I said, once it was bought by Sony, that independence went bye-bye. It was with this threat looming that Bungie leadership, not Sony, according to Parsons, made the choice to lay off roughly 100 employees last month. So that explains everything. The layoffs were done not because of, the fact that they missed their 45% target. The layoffs were done because they want to save the company. That's what it was done, right? They were looking after their own asses. Because as soon as Sony brass come in, guess what happens to Pete Parsons? See ya, buddy. You're unemployed. But the cost cutting at Bungie isn't limited to just personnel. Multiple current employees confirmed to IGM that the company has implemented numerous other cost cutting measures recently, including a studio wide hiring freeze, reduced travel budgets, elimination of holiday bonuses, keeping its annual Bungie Day virtual, delaying its week-long company pentathlon event to next December, and reducing numerous morale events such as cooking and knitting classes from monthly to quarterly. Bungie is also pausing or fully ending benefits like annual employee compensation adjustments to meet market rates, its new hire lunch program, employee donation matching, its peer recognition program, and gift cards for employees' birthdays. Man, they've basically taken away everything. I mean, for those of you that don't know what that new hire lunch program is, basically when a new person joins the company, one person is designated basically to be kind of like their chaperone for a few weeks, for a month. And every day you go out to lunch with them and just try to get to know them, help them settle in, and you kind of pay for their lunch or a portion of the lunch or whatever it is. So it's a nice program that some companies do. We do it in our company as well. But as you can see here, basically any benefit that the employees had is gone. And yearly studio performance bonuses this year will only be a contractually obligated 80% minimum, after being above 100% for good performance several previous years running. Now, what this is telling you is that if it wasn't contractually obligated, they would lose that 80% as well. Along with the recent layoffs, this has resulted in a massive decay in morale with the company. I mean, yeah, you've just lost 100% of your benefits. Don't you remember at the time when Xbox staff were losing access to Game Pass Ultimate and the media went absolutely batshit crazy about Xbox Game Pass Ultimate being removed from Microsoft staff? But now we're seeing every benefit under the sun removed. Let's see how the media is going to react to this one. According to IGN sources, one of whom told us that the mood within the studio has been soul-crushing over the last month, and it doesn't sound like management is making any significant efforts towards improving the atmosphere either. Well, what can they do? They're trying to save their own asses. They don't care about, the Tom, Dick, and Harry. They care about making sure that they've still got a seat on the board so they can protect their jobs. At the end of the day, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. Don't get me wrong, I expect them to do more. I expect them, because they are the ones that actually put the company into this position. They are the ones that, put the employees into this position, so that the least they can do is actually help and make this situation better for the remaining employees. But all they're doing is just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing every single one of those employees until they burst. According to those still with the company, employee frustration and sadness in the days and weeks following the layoffs was met with a surprising amount of indifference or even outright flippancy or hostility from management. Of course, they just want to forget about it and move on. They don't care about the people that got laid off. They don't care about anyone that, has dedicated their life's work towards Bungie. All they care about is making sure that they hit those targets so they can keep their jobs secure. They don't give two rats monkeys ass how many more staff they need to get rid of. Several people we spoke to told us that leaders had reiterated across multiple meetings that they wouldn't guarantee there wouldn't be more layoffs. Like I said this before, right? Once they've started, especially with a 45% deficit, you can expect more layoffs coming soon. There you go. I said this. I called this out. Some of you even said, no way. Here you go. Right there. It's in writing. With two specifically recalling Chief People Officer Holly Barbakovi outright stating that layoffs were a lever the company would pull again. Basically confirming that there's going to be more layoffs. We know we need Final Shape to do well, one source told IGN, and the feeling at the studio is that if it doesn't, we're definitely looking at more layoffs. So they're banking everything on this Final Shape. This is make or break for Bungie, because if this fails, Sony is moving in, and I think that's pretty much the end of Destiny. I think they're going to basically integrate Bungie into other areas of a live service studio. May even change the name at this point, because I think they're just going to abandon Destiny, considering it's missed 2 targets back to back. Others said they were rebuffed repeatedly and discouraged from even discussing the layoffs whenever they tried to ask questions. Now, when I work, if people are laid off, our HR has always, and our CEO has always offered us the opportunity to go have that discussion with them. That's a healthy company, and my company isn't doing, where I work isn't exactly doing the best, but they at least treat you as a human being in that regard. Here, this is awful. This is really awful. Employees in one department recalled a post-layoffs Q&A session where a department head was asked if leadership taking salary cuts to prevent layoffs had been considered, only to respond that Bungie was not that type of company. So the leadership could have taken, instead of lowering their pay cuts to try and dampen down that 45%, they just said, right, we're going to get rid of 100 people because we need that yacht, right? We need that yacht, or we need, we've got a yacht, we've got a mansion, but we need to buy another mansion and another yacht, and my kids need like another 4 yachts. So we're not going to take that price cut, salary cut, even though we're the ones that completely and utterly screwed everyone over. We're okay. We're going to look after number 1. But you little guys who are actually doing all the work and putting the hours in, yeah, you guys can piss the fuck off. That's basically what Bungie is saying. How can anyone support this company? It's blowing my mind how someone can actually still, with a straight face, support this company. At this point, I actually want this, the Bungie brass to just get taken over. That's disgusting. What's more, sources we spoke to pointed out that many of the Bungie employees who were laid off were beloved community leaders within the studio. And this confirms, right? I am not streaming this anymore. Done. I'm not going to be playing this live at all. I don't even know if I'm going to be playing it full stop. I mean, that to me is disgusting, right? When you look at Nintendo and when they, when they fail to meet sales expectations, instead of, attacking the staff, the CEO took like a 50% pay cut because he failed. That's what I expect, not this. Including many who had spearheaded employee inclusion and support efforts, several people we spoke to expressed anger at the layoff of Bungie General Counsel Don McGowan, who played a key role in Bungie winning an historic suit against a player who harassed the Bungie developer. This was DMG. He got really badly harassed to the point where he actually left the company. Others laid off included a noticeable number of members of Bungie's DE&I clubs. So all this, we are diverse, we support diversity and equality and all of this and inclusion. Yeah, you guys can piss off. We don't care about you. We've never cared about diversity, equality, or inclusion. It was just, PR. Like I've always said. Anyway, where were we? Including co-heads of Pride at Bungie, Women at Bungie, and Accessibility at Bungie. Look, I know some of you don't interact with me personally, but for those of you that did, I have repeatedly said this, that Bungie couldn't give two shits about diversity, equality, and inclusion. I said that all of this Pride stuff that they do, none of the companies actually give a shit about this because it's all a PR stunt. This just proves it. The first people to go is the parts of the company that gave them, some positive PR that actually has no real benefit to the company. Out you go, buddy. When combined with other recent resource cuts, these dismissals have led to fears these clubs might be shut down. While researching this article, IGN noted that the public news articles announcing Women at Bungie and Accessibility is on its official blog were no longer accessible on the Bungie website, though it's unclear exactly when or why this happened, or if it's just an unintentional recurring bug with the blog. Yeah, good luck with that. I'm angry. I'm upset. This isn't what I came here to do, one person said. It feels like many higher-ups aren't listening to the data and are like, we just need to win our fans back. They still like us. No, they don't. No, they absolutely do not. No, they don't. We got rid of some of our most knowledgeable, beloved folks who have been here for 20 plus years. Every day I walk in afraid that I or my friends are next. No one is safe. Bungie eroding. Another anxiety sources discussed with us was many of the reductions made at Bungie recently were part of a broader move toward outsourcing. Multiple individuals across various departments told us they'd heard discussions within their teams of plans to increase outsourcing both and before and in the wake of the layoffs. One team where those discussions have already become reality is in quality assurance. While outsourcing QA is extremely common practice industry-wide, Bungie historically has also enlisted an army of in-house embedded QA testers working within individual teams. Now listen, I used to work in the games industry as QA, right? I can tell you, when you outsource, it's not great. Those people that work in-house, that do the job, that actually care for the project, they do a much better job. Of course, you need those people to be full-time employees. In QA, you're generally employed for 3 months or for the duration of an update, and then you're let go. Unfortunately, that is the way the gaming industry treats QA. They are treated really badly. But for those companies out there that actually do retain their QA staff, you do generally see a higher level of QA. But unfortunately, if Bungie is going to, outsource it, man, things are only going to get worse. It's a setup that the studio has prided itself on for years now, but QA sources within the studio are now afraid that strategy is on its way out. We previously reported that Bungie's QA team saw a rash of mysterious departures in the months before the layoffs, and also noted a team-wide culture shift toward a general pool of testers consisting of both in-house and outsourced individuals. Former and current QA department members at Bungie tell us that in the last year, the team has seen increasing workloads and responsibilities. Doesn't sound unfamiliar at all, with more and more disciplinary actions taken for seemingly minor infractions. Basically, you don't want to do overtime? Yeah, we can't guarantee your next contract. That was a thing, by the way, where I worked. That was a thing. They also perceived growing hostility from team and company leadership, including a meeting in which QA was said to be referred to by leaders as non-developers. In total, sources tell us that over 10% of Bungie's internal QA department was either fired or laid off between early October and early November, including both the reported layoffs and the departures leading up to them. So that 100 people that were laid off, that wasn't it. That wasn't only it, folks. You have a load more that came before then that was kind of pushed under the rug. In a year that will go down in gaming history due to the sheer number of layoffs and studio closures, Bungie's situation nonetheless stands out, and not for good reasons. As a well-known, long-standing studio that, despite historic culture problems, had managed to cultivate an increasingly positive community of fans around a beloved game, while improving its own internal culture by gradual degrees. But in the wake of an acquisition that shocked many, Bungie employees were spoken to, and which seemed out of character with the studio's independent streak, it feels to many like that's all falling apart. Beloved colleagues have been laid off, benefits are vanishing, and many feel the more people-orientated, as one source put it, culture of recent years is being torn to pieces by the very Bungie leaders that tutored it for so long. And seemingly all, so those same leaders can retain a vestige of control over a company that's already been sold away anyway. That's my point, right? That's the point. They don't have any independence. Sony owned them. They're Sony's bitch. When Sony says jump, Bungie says how high. When Sony says roll over, they roll over waiting for a doggy treat. When Sony says you can't put this into the fucking game, Bungie says okay. There is no creative control at Bungie. There is no independence at Bungie. They were already owned by Sony from the beginning. But what's happening now is Sony put that clause in to make sure the first opportunity they get, they wipe out the floor with all of the old guard at Bungie in terms of the board members and take over themselves. Folks still there are very much feeling us versus them between leadership and workers. Because it is. They're trying to save their own asses, one person said. That trust has been eroded. Given their recent actions, the question of whether or not Sony will finally manage to swallow Bungie whole in a few months seems less and less important than the question of what Bungie's current management will do to lead the company forward today. I mean, I would just, anyone that worked at Bungie that makes Bungie what it is today, just leave. Find another job and go. And at that point, Bungie isn't Bungie anymore. But folks, that is this. I hope you've enjoyed this breakdown, this article. It's pretty damning, right? It's a pretty big story. This was supposed to be part of my first video that was coming out, so I've actually delayed that first video. So you'll actually see me saying that there's a big story for Bungie in there. It's basically this. So if you checked it out, this is what it's referring to. But damn. That's a big story. Well, folks, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.